Good morning. It's Friday, February the 23rd. I'm Ron. Welcome to Story Time. And today I'm going to be reading Chapter 3 of Philosophy Who Needs It by Ayn Rand. I'm going to read real quick from the back cover of the book. This collection of essays was the last work planned by Ayn Rand before her death in 1982. In it, she summarizes her view of philosophy and deals with a broad spectrum of topics. According to Ayn Rand, the choice we make is not whether we have a philosophy, but which one to have: rational, conscious, and therefore practical, or contradictory, unidentified, and ultimately lethal. Written with all the clarity and eloquence that have placed Ayn Rand's objectivist philosophy in the mainstream of American thought, these essays range over such basic issues as education, morality, censorship, and inflation to prove that philosophy is the fundamental force in all our lives. Chapter 3: The Metaphysical versus the Man-Made, 1973. God grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and wisdom to know the difference. This remarkable statement is attributed to a theologian with whose ideas I disagree in every fundamental respect, Reinhold Niebuhr. But, omitting the form of a prayer, i.e., the implication that one's mental emotional states are a gift from God, that statement is profoundly true, as a summary and a guideline. It names the mental attitude which a rational man must seek to achieve. The statement is beautiful in its eloquent simplicity, but the achievement of that attitude involves philosophy's deepest metaphysical, moral issues. I was startled to learn that the statement has been adopted as a prayer by Alcoholics Anonymous, which is not exactly a philosophical organization. In view of the fact that today's socio-psychological theories stress emotional, not intellectual, needs and frustrations as the cause of human suffering, e.g., the lack of love, that organization deserves credit for discovering that such a prayer is relevant to the problems of alcoholics, that the misery of confusion on those issues has devastating consequences and is one of the factors driving men to drink, i.e., to seek escape from reality. This is just one more example of the way in which philosophy rules the lives of men who have never heard or cared to hear about it. Most men spend their lives in futile rebellion against things they cannot change, in passive resignation to things they can, and never attempting to learn the difference, in chronic guilt and self-doubt on both counts. Observe what philosophical premises are implicit in that advice and are required for an attempt to live up to it. If there are things that men can change, it means that he possesses the power of choice, i.e., the faculty of volition. If he does not possess it, he can change nothing, including his own actions and characteristics, such as courage or lack of it. If there are things that man cannot change, it means that there are things that cannot be affected by his actions and are not open to his choice. This leads to the basic metaphysical issue that lies at the root of any system of philosophy: the primacy of existence or the primacy of consciousness. The primacy of existence, of reality, is the axiom that existence exists, i.e., that the universe exists independent of consciousness or any consciousness, that things are what they are, that they possess a specific nature, an identity. The epistemological corollary is the axiom that consciousness is the faculty of perceiving that which exists, and the man gains knowledge of that man gains knowledge of reality by looking outward. The rejection of these axioms represents a reversal, the primacy of consciousness, the notion that the universe has no independent existence, that it is the product of a consciousness, either human or divine or both, The epistemological corollary is the notion that man gains knowledge of reality by looking inward, either at his own consciousness or at the revelations it receives from another superior consciousness. And I wanted to interject here really quick about this idea of the primacy of existence versus the primacy of consciousness. I think everybody has heard the it's sort of like a riddle, and but heard the question: if a tree in a forest falls and no one is around to hear it, did it make a sound? And the question that is asking about at first, and for a long time, I thought that was just some kind of a throwaway question, something you ask people when you're at a party for amusement sake. But it isn't. It's a serious question that will determine whether or not you acknowledge the primacy of existence or not. Because if you answer that yes, then you're saying that there is metaphysical reality. If you answer no, then you're insisting that all realities are man-made. The source of this reversal is the inability or unwillingness fully to grasp the difference between one's inner state and the outer world, i.e., between the perceiver and the perceived, thus blending consciousness and existence into one interdeterminate package deal. The crucial distinction is not given to men automatically. It has to be learned. It is implicit in any awareness, but it has to be grasped conceptually and held as an absolute. As far as can be observed, infants and savages do not grasp it. They may perhaps have some rudimentary glimmer of it. At the bottom of the page is an asterisk describing package dealing. And package dealing is the fallacy of failing to discriminate crucial differences, period. It consists of treating together as parts of a single conceptual whole or package elements which differ essentially in nature, truth status, importance, or value. Very few men ever choose to grasp it and to fully accept it. The majority keep swinging from side to side, implicitly recognizing the primacy of existence in some cases and denying it in others, adopting a kind of hit-or-miss rule of thumb epistemological agnosticism. Through ignorance and or by intention, the result of which is the shrinking of their intellectual range, i.e. of their capacity to deal with abstractions. And although few people today believe that the singing of mystic incantations will bring rain, most people still regard as valid an argument such as, if there is no God, who created the universe? To grasp the axiom that existence exists means to grasp the fact that nature, i.e. the universe as a whole, cannot be created or annihilated, that it cannot come into or go out of existence. Whether its basic constituent elements are atoms or subatomic particles or some yet undiscovered forms of energy, it is not ruled by a consciousness or by will or by chance, but by the law of identity. All the countless forms, motions, combinations, and dissolution of elements within the universe, from a floating speck of dust to the formation of a galaxy to the emergence of life, are caused and determined by the identities of the elements involved. Nature is the metaphysically given, i.e., the nature of nature is outside the power of any volition. Man's volition is an attribute of his consciousness, of his rational faculty, and consists in the choice to perceive existence or to evade it. To perceive existence, to discover the characteristics or properties, the identities, of the things that exist, means to discover and accept the metaphysically given. Only on the basis of this knowledge is man able to learn how the things given in nature can be rearranged to serve his needs, which is his method of survival. The power to rearrange the combinations of natural elements is the only creative power man possesses. It is an enormous and glorious power, and it is the only meaning of the concept creative. Creation does not, and metaphysically cannot, mean the power to bring something into existence out of nothing. Creation means the power to bring into existence an arrangement or combination or integration of natural elements that had not existed before. This is true of any human product, scientific or aesthetic. Man's imagination is nothing more than the ability to rearrange the things he has observed in reality. The best and briefest identification of man's power in regard to nature is Francis Bacon's nature. To be commanded must be obeyed. In this context, to be commanded means to be made to serve man's purposes. To be obeyed means that they cannot be served unless man discovers the properties of natural elements and uses them accordingly. For example, 200 years ago, men would have said that it is impossible to hear a human voice at a distance of 238,000 miles. It is as impossible today as it was then, but if we are able to hear an astronaut's voice coming from the moon, it is by means of the science of electronics, which discovered certain natural phenomenon and enabled men to build the kind of equipment that picks up the vibrations of that voice, transmits them, and reproduces them on Earth. Without this knowledge and this equipment, centuries of wishing, praying, screaming, and foot stomping would not make a man's voice heard at the distance of 10 miles. Today, this is implicitly understood and more or less accepted in regard to the physical sciences, hence their progress. It is neither understood nor accepted and is in fact vociferously denied in regard to the humanities, the sciences dealing with man, hence their stagnant barbarism. Almost unanimously, man is regarded as an unnatural phenomenon, either as a supernatural entity whose mystic, divine endowment, the mind, soul, is above nature, or as a subnatural entity whose mystic, demonical endowment, the mind, is an enemy of nature, ecology. The purpose of all such theories is to exempt man from the law of identity. But man exists and his mind exists. Both are part of nature. Both possess a specific identity. The attribute of volition does not contradict the fact of identity, just as the existence of living organisms does not contradict the existence of inanimate matter. Living organisms possess the power of self-initiated motion, which inanimate matter does not possess. Man's consciousness possesses the power of self-initiated motion in the realm of cognition, thinking, which the consciousnesses of other living species do not possess. But just as animals are able to move only in accordance with the nature of their bodies, so man is able to initiate and direct his mental action only in accordance with the nature, the identity, of his consciousness. His volition is limited to his cognitive processes. He has power to identify and to conceive of rearranging the elements of reality, but not the power to alter them. He has the power to use his cognitive faculty as its nature requires, but not the power to alter it, nor to escape the consequences of its misuse. He has the power to suspend, evade, corrupt, or subvert his perception of reality, but not the power to escape the existential and psychological disasters that follow. The use or misuse of his cognitive faculty determines a man's choice of values, which determine his emotions and his character. It is in this sense that man is a being of self-made soul. Man's faculty of volition as such is not a contradiction of nature, but it opens the way for a host of contradictions when and if men do not grasp the crucial difference between the metaphysically given and any object, institution, procedure, or rule of conduct made by man. It is the metaphysically given that must be accepted. It cannot be changed. It is the man-made that must never be accepted uncritically. It must be judged, then accepted or rejected, and changed when necessary. Man is not omniscient or infallible. He can make innocent errors through lack of knowledge, or he can lie, cheat, and fake. The man-made may be a product of genius, perceptiveness, ingenuity, or it may be a product of stupidity, deception, malice, evil. One man may be right and everyone else wrong, or vice versa, or any numerical division in between. Nature does not give man any automatic guarantee of the truth of his judgments, and this is a metaphysically given fact which must be accepted. Who, then, is to judge? Each man to the best of his ability and honesty. What is his standard of judgment? The metaphysically given. The metaphysically given cannot be true or false. It simply is. And man determines the truth or falsehood of his judgments by whether they correspond to or contradict the facts of reality. The metaphysically given cannot be right or wrong. It is the standard of right and wrong by which a rational man judges his goals, his values, his choices. The metaphysically given is, was, will be, and had to be. Nothing made by man had to be. It was made by choice. To rebel against the metaphysically given is to engage in a futile attempt to negate existence. To accept the man-made as beyond challenge is to engage in a successful attempt to negate one's own consciousness. Serenity comes from the ability to say yes to existence. Courage comes from the ability to say no to the wrong choices made by others. Any natural phenomenon, i.e., any event which occurs without human participation, is the metaphysically given, and could not have occurred differently or failed to occur. Any phenomenon involving human action is the man-made and could have been different. For example, a flood occurring in an uninhabited land is the metaphysically given. A dam built to contain the flood water is the man-made. If the builders miscalculate and the dam breaks, the disaster is metaphysical in its origin, but intensified by man in its consequences. To correct the situation, men must obey nature by studying the causes and potentialities of the flood, then command nature by building better flood controls. But to declare that all of man's efforts to improve the condition of his existence are futile, to declare that nature is unknowable because we cannot prove that there will be a flood every year, even though there has been one every year in memory, to declare that human knowledge is an illusion because the original dam builders were certain that the dam would hold, but it did not, is to drive men back to the primordial confusion on the relationship of consciousness to existence, and thus to rob men of serenity and courage, as well as many other things. Yet this is what modern philosophy has been declaring for 200 years or longer. Observe that the metaphysical system based on the axioms of the primacy of existence, i.e., on recognizing the absolutism of reality, led to the recognition of man's identity and rights. But the philosophical systems based on the primacy of consciousness, i.e., on the seemingly megalomaniacal notion that nature is whatever man wants it to be, led to the view that man possesses no identity, that he is infinitely flexible, malleable, usable, and disposable. Ask yourself why. A major part of the philosopher's attack on man's mind is devoted to attempts to obliterate the difference between the metaphysically given and the man-made. The confusion on this issue started as an ancient error, to which even Aristotle contributed in some of his Platonist aspects. But today it is running deliberately and inexcusably wild. A typical package deal used by professors of philosophy runs as follows. To prove the assertion that there is no such thing as necessity in the universe, a professor declares that just as his country did not have to have 50 states, there could have been 48 or 52, so the solar system did not have to have 9 planets. There could have been 7 or 11. It is also proof. Let's see. It is not sufficient, he declares, to prove that something is. One must also prove that it had to be. And since nothing had to be, nothing is certain and anything goes. The technique of undercutting man's mind consists in palming off the man-made as if it were the metaphysically given, then ascribing to nature the concepts that refer only to man's lack of knowledge, such as chance or contingency, then reversing the two elements of the package deal. From the assertion, man is unpredictable, therefore nature is unpredictable, the argument goes to nature possesses volition, man does not. Nature is free, man is ruled by unknowable forces. Nature is not to be conquered, man is. Most people believe that an issue of this kind is empty academic talk, of no practical significance to anyone, which blinds them to its consequences in their own lives. If one were to tell them that the package deal made of this issue is part of the nagging uncertainty, the quiet hopelessness, the great despair of their daily inner state, they would deny it. They would not recognize it introspectively. But the inability to introspect is one of the consequences of this package deal. Okay, that's where I'm going to leave things for today, and I will pick up tomorrow part 2 of the metaphysical versus the man-made, which is chapter 3 from Philosophy Who Needs It by Ayn Rand. So until tomorrow, thank you very much for joining me, and have a great day.